Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast that Clint Eastwood, Deep Blue Something, and Pippin, the son of Charles the Great, all don't want you to hear. It's Monkeys and Playbills, y'all!
These are getting wilder and wilder as we go on.
I'll bet you can't wait to find out how all those connect. Welcome to Monkeys and Playbills, y'all. This is the show where we talk about Broadway musicals that had runs of 100 performances or fewer on Broadway.
And what the heck happened?
And today, we're doing a very special episode. We'll tell you what the episode is in a second, but first we want to introduce a very special guest. We're remote recording today for the first time in a long time, but it's for a good reason, because we're zooming in with someone from jolly old England, y'all.
Oh, no.
Jolly old England, it's just me.
It's Nelson Bettencourt, dear friend of the podcast. Dear friend of the podcast, dear friend to both Jill and I, who for the past couple years has moved from Winnipeg to London, England to live with his partner and is just crushing it over there, crushes it here whenever he's back. Nelson, how's it going?
Oh, I'm so good. I'm so happy to be on with you guys. I missed you so much.
Oh, we're missing you.
Nelson and I had worked together many times because we went to high school together. We've known each other since we were like 14.
That's my favorite thing ever.
Jeez, where do we start? Well, let's talk about what we're doing for this episode.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled to have Nelson on board for this Revive or Die.
Nelson's been a big help to this podcast in the past because Nelson is a virtual encyclopedia.
I wouldn't go that far. Like, that's, but thank you. Muchas gracias. But
More specifically, Nelson likes to collect old and obscure scores and cast recordings and all sorts of Broadway obscuria.
I do, but even these shows were like hard to find.
I love that for us, though.
We're going to tackle 3 musicals today, 3 especially obscure Broadway musicals that didn't run over 100 performances. We're going to tackle 3 of them because these musicals are so obscure and so bizarrely documented, it's difficult to find a full context. It's difficult to find enough information to do a full hour-long episode. So instead, we're going to talk about these shows, talk about the little information we could find, and we're going to speculate wildly about the rest of it.
I can't wait.
First up, let's talk about 1966's Breakfast at Tiffany's. So the way this is gonna work, I've done research on the music, what it sounds like, and kind of what the show looked like.
I have done some research on the kind of production history, synopsis, and creative teams.
And I looked at the Tony Awards and which musicals did well and which musicals didn't. And we can pretty much assume that none of these musicals did very well.
They did not crush at the Tonys. So here we are. Let's start with Breakfast at Tiffany's.
All right, let me give you the go here on
please
the
do.
deets, and then we can maybe jump into what you think the plot is, Paul.
Absolutely. I love it.
Breakfast at Tiffany's. Previews began at the Majestic Theater on December 12th, 1966. It opened never officially.
Really? It didn't see anything.
Closed on December 14th, 1966 after 4 previews.
And 0 public performances.
I have been dying to talk about this musical ever since we started this podcast for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And one of them is exactly this, the fact that it never technically reached sort of public performance.
Based on a book, right?
A novella.
By Truman Capote. It was a really cool kind of pop author in the 1950s, 1960s. I've only ever read Cold Blood. That's one, right?
In Cold Blood, yeah.
Which I really like.
Same.
And I've seen the Philip Seymour Hoffman movie. Are there any other adaptations of Breakfast at Tiffany's that I'm forgetting? Like popular ones?
The song. And I said,
Right.
What about
Breakfast at Tiffany's?
God damn it, Jill, you ruined my bit. I wanted someone to say, what about the movie? Hold on, let's go again.
Okay, sorry.
Are there any other adaptations of Breakfast at Tiffany's that I'm forgetting?
Nelson?
I think you're forgetting about the movie.
Oh, I think I remember that film. If I recall, I think we both kind of liked it.
I hate this. I hate it.
Because my other connection to Breakfast at Tiffany's is there's a song by Deep Blue Something that was released in the mid-90s that I love so much.
I do have a question about this musical that maybe you guys can answer. So is this musical based on the movie or is it based on the novella?
And this is where it gets tricky. So this is something I'd like to address now before we really get into this.
Totally.
So the book was a novella, not a fully fleshed out book novel. And Truman Capote did not like the movie.
Fair enough.
Shade.
The way that they had like changed basically the essence of Holly Golightly, they changed her as a human character in the movie to imply that she was a sex worker.
Right.
And he didn't like that. So already the movie is not necessarily true to the novella. And so then I go, oh, well, is Breakfast at Tiffany's the musical an adaptation of the movie, or is it an adaptation of the novella? And my gut tells me it's probably the movie.
Sure, that would make sense.
I think that was the big thing, especially in the early 1960s, like with Audrey. Miss Audrey was in it.
Miss Hepburn.
I'm assuming because of the popularity of that they thought bringing it to stage would automatically sell tickets.
Gotta be. It seems like it was a big ol' home run. So, who wrote this, Jill?
Okay, so this is where it's really fun.
It's really interesting, yeah.
It's already fun right now
Yep.
when you're asking me about this, because Abe Burrows, who, if I'm not mistaken, wrote the book for Guys and Dolls.
Absolutely correct. Huge collaborator with Frank Lesser, both Guys and Dolls and How to Succeed.
Great.
Yep.
So Abe Burrows was initially the book writer on this project, but I guess at some point during out-of-town tryouts, they were like, oh, or was it previews? At some point, they were like, no, it's got to be Edward Albee.
Yeah, this book's not cutting it from powerhouse book writer Abe Burrows, who's had already written the books for 2 highly successful musicals at this point. Mm-hmm. Instead, let's get famed playwright Edward Albee, who's not a bad fit, all told.
Yeah, like, I guess not.
Right?
I think it's just, again, like, I look at the format for a Broadway musical versus, like, a play, and it's not always, like, transferable in that sense, in terms of style.
Because when I think of Edward Albee, I think of, like, quippy, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Mm-hmm. And that seems like the vibe that would work for Breakfast at Tiffany's as well, but maybe not for a musical.
I know it doesn't always work with a playwright taking over a musical because, they are 2 very different genres.
Yeah, related but different mediums almost, yeah.
But I look at Fun Home, which was, of course, Janine Tesori working with Lisa Cron. And Lisa Cron had never
Incredible
worked on a musical before.
Mm-hmm.
And it was smash hit, out of the park, beautiful
Loved
production.
It. Very good. Took a bunch of Tonys.
But this also is 1960s, and maybe the genres just could not come together just yet.
Yeah, it also could have been like a fundamental stylistic issue. Like, in the sense that from the beginning, no one actually knew what it was supposed to be. They were just trying to make something happen, but no one could agree on, what they were adapting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What was the vision?
Yeah, what's the vision? Why are we doing this?
So, the music had kind of at least like a half powerhouse attached to it.
Yeah.
Bob Merrill did the lyrics for Funny Girl, which is kind of a big old deal, so he wrote the lyrics for friggin' like People and Don't Rain on My Parade, and so he's done very well for himself.
I know Sugar randomly because I sang a song from that
Sure.
when I was going to school. And then he did Carnival.
Carnival,
Yes,
that's the other
right.
one. Yep. So like someone who's got some stuff going on, not a nobody, someone who's who knows what they're doing. So what the heck happened? Why was it so bad that it couldn't even make it out of previews?
I mean, I was waiting to hear Moon River. I really wanted to hear Moon River. It just never came. And I was like, okay, I'm out. I can't do this.
Does it not happen?
No, it's not. Because Bob Merrill did not write Moon River.
No, well, I said, what about breakfast? That's what I was waiting for,
You're a little early for it.
I was like, oh, it's gonna be the finale of the show. Said I think I remember that film. Nothing. Not even a reference.
I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask because I didn't listen to any music.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't listen to a single thing. What was your impression, Paul and Nelson? So Nelson, did you listen to the music, obviously, or the album? as much as it exists.
I mean, yeah, I listened to...
It super exists is the cool thing.
Yeah.
In 2014, they got together and made a real nice cast recording, like a professional level cast recording.
So in 2013, there was a revival on Broadway, or an off-Broadway production. Emilia Clarke and this really charming guy. Is this the same?
No, that's another adaptation of Breakfast at Tiffany's. That's not
that's
not the 1960s musical. I got caught on this as well because in doing research, this all gets caught up, right? Let me give you a rundown of Breakfast at Tiffany's on Broadway as I understand it,
based on listening to the 2014 recording,
or at least just how it's been documented, and then I'll get to the 2014
I see.
recording. Because in the 1960s, it doesn't even open, but someone does take a live recording from a performance of it.
Mm-hmm.
That exists somewhere. I wasn't able to find it. If anyone from any fan of the podcast, any friend of the podcast finds it and sends it to us, that would be really cool. We'll send you a mug. We've got friend of the podcast mugs now that we can send you. It'll be wonderful. And then it lives in obscurity for a while as kind of one of these famous Broadway flops, kind of that just end up in the canon until the story gets a new adaptation in 2013. Emilia Clarke's in it. And around that same time, a studio recording of the original music is produced. Faith Prince is in the lead. There's a whole bunch of people in it, and it sounds great. It sounds like it was made in 2014, so crystal clear, modern recording technology. So that's what I was able to listen to samples of to get an idea of this show.
Great.
In addition, I was able to find one clip from the original audience recording of Mary Tyler Moore singing an actual song called Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yep.
The music's nice. It's like super 1950s, 1960s, that kind of end of Golden Age, just post Golden Age sound. Like, think Funny Girl. It's that very much that vibe, and it's a nice vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate it either.
Right?
I thought I was going to hate it, and
Yeah.
I didn't hate it either.
This is good news.
It is.
And I thought at least the recording that I found on the YouTubes sounded like decent. I wanted to hate it because, it had 4 previews, so I'm like, something went wrong.
Yeah, something
went wrong.
I don't think the music went wrong.
I wanted to ask,
Yes,
so Paul, you've never seen the movie,
correct.
but you've listened to now this cast recording.
In preparation for this episode, I listened to the 30-second preview clips of all the songs on Amazon Music.
Brilliant. Nelson, have you seen the movie?
I have not seen the movie. I've seen clips.
This is amazing. This is literally amazing to me because I am going to now have the two of you together tell me what you think the story is based on listening to this music and like the little bits that you know about it.
So here's what I know about Breakfast at Tiffany's. I know that Holly Golightly is the main character, played by Audrey Hepburn in the movie.
Correct.
I know that the movie also features Mickey Rooney in just an outstandingly racist performance.
I saw those bits and I was like,
just an absurdly
It's
racist.
horrific.
Bury it deep, 10 feet under the ground, never talk about it again. So for our purposes, I'm not going to touch that. And that's all I know for sure. The other thing is I think that the Tiffany's referred to as like Tiffany's jewelry store in New York.
Good. Very good.
Okay, so that's it. That's what I'm going in with. So with that said, I've got a song list right here.
I just have one quick note before we start.
Yes.
I feel like the fact that there is a song in this musical called Breakfast at Tiffany's that Holly Golightly probably sings outside Tiffany's
We have to
is
assume.
already a sign to me that they got this whole thing wrong. So I'll just say it now. I'm
Great.
just going to say it now.
Okay, so there are a lot of songs in this cast recording, so I'm going to try to move very quickly through what I understand the plot to be after zero research.
Great.
And Nelson, if I forget anything based on our incredible amounts of research that we've both done, please feel free to weigh in at any point with true facts that you know for sure.
okay.
So we start. There's an overture. It sounds fantastic. And then we have the opening number, I've Got a Penny. This is sang by Holly Golightly herself, who's poor. She doesn't have much money, but she's got a penny. She's got a scrappy attitude. And she's looking for the wittiest fellow in Pittsburgh, which is the next number in the show. She wants someone who's so funny, they are the funniest person in all of the renowned funny city of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a very funny city. Everyone knows this. And she's looking for the funniest guy in all of Pittsburgh. That's more of a metaphor than a real thing because she's in New York. But she's lonely. She's looking for a funny guy. This is actually a reference to Bob Merrill's previous work, Funny Girl.
Stop. Oh my
But that's more of an Easter egg for the true fans.
This is so ridiculous.
So here she is, one penny, looking for a man, but she's hungry. She's so hungry, she doesn't have much money. She's in New York, and she's starving Marvin.
She's thirsty.
She's thirsty.
She needs someone to quench her thirst.
But she also needs maybe some Eggs Benedict, so she finds herself in front of Tiffany's jewelry store.
Which now serves breakfast.
Well, this is it. They're having a promotion where you get an Eggs Benedict and you look for like diamond bracelets. And so she sings a song about how much she would like breakfast at Tiffany's. This goes on for a while because there's many, many songs in Act 1. We learn a lot about the various people in Holly Golightly's life, all the various men that she meets but decides they're not funny enough. There's a song about halfway through Act 1 called Calling All Men, where she's just trying to meet people, trying to meet funny men who would be rated as the funniest in all of Pittsburgh. We have the Lament for 10 Men.
That's the one that I was looking at. A Lament for 10 Men. Like, this girl, she goes through men quickly.
Well, if I recall correctly, it's a montage scene where we see her on 10 different dates.
Yeah.
Hello, 12.
Hello,
13.
Hello, la.
Well, it's an Easter egg for the true fans to a musical that would be written 10 years later, called A Chorus Line.
Good. This is where they drew their inspiration.
She goes on a date with 10 different men, and all of them are not very funny. It's like the whole joke is, she's like, so, tell me a joke. And the guy's like, why did the chicken cross the road? And she goes,
and then they fall through a trap
and
door.
they fall through a trap door. Exactly.
Like Sweeney.
Yeah.
Very Sweeney-esque. Like, the chair actually goes backwards, they slide.
And of course, all of these dates take place at Tiffany's during the breakfast buffet. So they're all munching Eggs Benedict.
I can't with this breakfast promotion.
So this continues on. There's all sorts of interesting and exciting songs where we learn a lot more about Holly Golightly, her search for love, her desire to buy diamond bracelets from Tiffany's, but she doesn't have any money. She's just got a penny and a desire for a witty man. Finally, Daddy comes home. This is a song, When Daddy Comes Home. This is a term that's had a resurgence in recent years to describe an older person who is very sexy in kind of like a fatherly way. I'm using that correctly. So that's what they're referring to here as well. This is where that started because she meets what's his name again, Nelson?
Jeff?
She meets Jeff. Oh, she meets Jeff, and Jeff is super daddy. And he's funny.
He's so daddy, he is zaddy. That's how daddy is.
He's zaddy, absolutely. That's not a term that existed at that point, but it's a term that if you're applying today's lens, if you're looking through Breakfast at Tiffany's in today's lens, he is super zaddy. If we were going to do a revival, this song would be called When Zaddy Comes Home. So we meet Jeff. Jeff is funny. Jeff is hot. Jeff's got a big beard. And they begin a flirtation throughout the rest of Act 1. A flirtation that goes through songs such as You've Never Kissed Her, songs like Who Needs Her, when he's frustrated with Holly Golightly's insistence that they always meet at Tiffany's, and finally ends Act 1 with the sex dance.
Literally, I was waiting for you to get to this. The
say
sex dance.
The sex dance is the final number in Act 1, y'all.
Wow, okay. Wow.
It kind of reminds you of the Dance of the Seven Veils from that opera that I can't remember.
From Salome. Yeah, totally.
Salome, yeah. Just like, it's the Dance of the Seven Veils, but no, it's actually just sex dance.
Well, so it's the Dance of the Seven Veils, but it's Jeff who's doing the dance.
It's a dream ballet.
Exactly, precisely.
Yeah, we love a dream ballet.
So that's the end of 1. Top of Act 2, we've got an entr'acte, and we start with Nothing is New in New York. Nelson, what's happening here?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, Nelson, help us.
It's not really a book song. It's more of just a set the stage.
It's just someone actually just walks onto stage and says, "There's nothing new in New York. Back to the scene."
And so finally, we find our way to Good Girls Go to Heaven. This song is a very important song in the show because it's Holly Golightly is feeling conflicted. This is the 1950s. It's a pretty significant thing to have sex with someone before you're married at this time. And she's feeling a little weird. She's kind of trying to wrap her head around kind of the guilt of the 1950s, having a healthy sexual relationship with her boyfriend Jeff. So she sings the song Good Girls Go to Heaven, which is like, well, that am I still... It's of the time, is the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, though, because this show is actually very sex positive and is just exploring different takes on this. This is, from what I understand. So, because Jeff is actually, not only is he funny, but he's an eligible bachelor, Holly Golightly kind of says, you know what, you gotta settle down with me, or ciao. So there's a song called Ciao Compare. Compare. I'm not sure...
It's compare. It's actually compare.
Ciao compare, which loosely translated means see you zaddy. See you later, zaddy. And thus, after this, Jeff sings The Bachelor, where he laments the fact that he'll always be a bachelor. He's too sexy and too much of a ladies' man to ever settle down with one person. But wait, could he settle down with Holly Golightly?
Could he?
Well, we find out after 3 or 4 more songs. We finally find ourselves at the end of the show. There's all sorts of romantic comedy hijinks that take place.
Probably a tap number. I mean,
There's a tap number where Jeff tries to apologize to Holly Golightly.
2.
In 2 different tap numbers. It's misunderstood. He's dancing with another woman trying to impress Holly Golightly, but she misunderstands. In classic rom-com fashion, she's like, yeah, you're with another woman. What's going on? He's like, oh, no, you misunderstood. Give me a chance to explain. And she's like, absolutely not. I don't need a chance to explain. This would become the archetype for many rom-coms in the future. This all stems from this musical. Until finally we find ourselves at the end of the show where Jeff sings about how he's always making the same mistakes. I've done this all the time. I make the mistake. I fall in love with a wonderful woman, but I make the same mistakes over and over again. Give me another chance. And here we are at the end of the show, where Holly Golightly sings a reprise of Breakfast at Tiffany's, where they sit down for an Eggs Benedict together to give it another try.
Yeah, the first one was bad, but the second one, was the one where they nailed it.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the good Eggs Benny.
Did I miss anything, Nelson? Anything important to the well-known plot of Breakfast at Tiffany's?
I think that's exactly how it went. I was like, I thought you were going to be way more sillier with it, because I was going to be like, it's actually about a girl named Tiffany, and she's like the cook at this diner, and she just served breakfast all day, and it's like we go get breakfast at Tiffany's,
and she's exhausted.
She's exhausted. It's about
from refilling your coffee.
So, Jill, did we misunderstand anything about this plot?
Well, the first thing you misunderstood was the guy's name.
Right.
It's
not Jeff.
Not Jeff.
Our bad. That's on us. That's fair enough. Small misunderstanding.
So I realized as you were doing your synopsis, I was reading over the one I found on Playbill.com, and
Yes.
I realized that the one on Playbill.com is actually related to the revival, which my understanding is probably closer to the original novella
Interesting.
than it is to the movie. So I'm going to read you that.
Great.
And then I'm going to tell you all the ways in which it's not the same as the movie.
Great.
And also then probably not the same as the original musical. Okay.
Makes total sense.
So this synopsis from Playbill.com says, Truman Capote's Breakfast at Tiffany's is set in New York City in 1943. Fred, a young writer from Louisiana, meets Holly Golightly, a charming, vivacious, and utterly elusive good-time girl. Everyone falls in love with Holly, including Fred, but Fred is poor, and Holly's other suitors include a playboy millionaire and the future president of Brazil. As war rages on in Europe, Holly begins to fall in love with Fred, just as her past catches up with her.
So, like, tomato to what we said.
Same.
So,
Exact same.
war was not part of the 62 movie, or referenced at all, and I think it's because they had set the film in that time period. Like, it's got a 60s vibe to me.
Yeah, totally.
Some of the things that are correct are that Holly Golightly is a charming and vivacious good time girl.
Yeah.
That's a thing that is very clear in the movie.
Right.
But I don't know how true that is necessarily to the book. I think we may have a different feeling about what that means.
Yeah. And this is what I was trying to get at with my very, very poor attempt at a joke in Act 2 there, where I do know that Breakfast at Tiffany's does deal with, like, Holly Golightly's ownership of her sexuality and her romantic life, and yeah.
Yeah, and also in a really indirect way. Like, they really never truly address it, which is, I think, a little of that time though, too,
Sure.
right? It's like, oh, we'll allude to it, but we won't talk about it.
So when you hear that synopsis, Nelson and Jill, my dear friends, do you think, man, that's got to be a musical with like 40 songs in it?
I mean, does any musical
Right?
really
Like-
need 40 songs in it? That's
Exactly the question.
I mean,
we need to
when I
ask
found out it was 40
ourselves.
songs and it was 2 acts, I was like, that like, if we split it down the middle, 20 songs each half. This is a 3-act musical that it really should be, first of all, but no musical should be 3 acts. So, or I'm okay, I misspoke. Not any, musicals can be 3 acts. Will I sit through them all? I don't know.
Last podcast, we tackled Anyone Can Whistle, which is originally in 3 acts and definitely should not be. So I'm right there with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the other thing we should talk about is like the direction and who was on this creative
Yes.
team, because I think it will also, it's not going to answer anything, but I think it's helpful
A little
to
more
know.
context, absolutely.
So it was directed by Joseph Anthony, who directed The Most Happy Fella and 110 in the Shade.
Okay, both real nice shows.
The music director was Stanley Lebowski, who also did the vocal arrangements on this.
Absolutely.
And was the MD for the OG Pippin in Chicago.
I believe his nickname is Big, Stanley Big Lebowski.
Oh, is he ever?
Daft, be sure to put like a big old laugh track there. Yeah?
No,
yeah?
don't.
No,
Okay, well-
do that. Pew, pew,
Yeah,
pew, pew.
Daft's shaking his head and I
Yes. Well, I'll take that again. Daft, be sure to leave this all in. I believe his name is Stanley Big Lebowski. And that's where the air horns will go. Do you understand? Is that okay?
Got a thumbs up.
Fantastic. Thank you, producer Daft. Sorry to interrupt, Jill. That was really important. You were saying.
And then the musical staging was by Michael Kidd.
Oh.
Guys and Dolls, Lil Abner, the 1980 Music Man revival. Like a busy and pretty iconic choreographer.
They've got some strong people working on this.
Yeah, and I think that was the main source of confusion on a lot of like the blogs that I was reading about this, is that they're like, even if this team couldn't collectively make it work, then like what was happening? And that's why I think it was a style thing.
Seems like a style thing, or I would argue maybe even a structure challenge if they ended up bringing in a whole new book writer
Right.
to restructure and rewrite. You know what I mean?
I mean, to try and fix what was wrong?
Exactly. That's a Hail Mary, and I would say probably one that doesn't usually work.
Like a too late in the game.
Like that should be in the workshop process or something. But this is before that process was really firmly established, right? Because the modern workshop process was established with Chorus Line in the 1970s.
I think you're right.
Someone write me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's correct. So I would hazard a guess to say that that's maybe what killed Breakfast at Tiffany's, is it was really long and really boring, and the structure was all over the place.
Yeah. Nelson, what do you think?
Okay, so I know it wasn't my job to like do any of the reading, but I just wanted to know.
No, this is good.
I read somewhere that the producer, and tell me if I make
David
this up,
Merrick.
had pulled out because the show was so boring that he was like, "Y'all, this is done."
I actually have the quote.
Yes.
Please read the quote. It was so juicy. It was
Yes. So it was supposed to open on Boxing Day in 1966, but producer David Merrick closed the show in previews, quote, rather than subject the drama critics and the public to an excruciatingly boring evening.
Oh, the shade.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So
This
there
is
we go.
too boring.
Boring.
I can't do this to anyone. It
I
would be
get it.
irresponsible to make people watch this.
I get that maybe in the 60s they were worried about a woman leading a show and it
Oh, sure,
centering around a woman. You know? Like, think about it.
But at this point, we've already, Rodgers and Hammerstein's already broken that ground, you know?
They've broken the ground,
But
but
no.
women.
No.
This is not romantic.
Sure. Yeah. She's not a damsel in distress at any point. Whereas even, even Nellie, for all her gumption and go get 'em, is still kind of a damsel in distress at the end of the day.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it depends how you play her, but yes.
Depends if you're
No, I know.
Gillian Williams or if you play her bad. Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's true. And I feel like, and this is me obviously speculating wildly because I
Yeah.
can't presume to know what the sort of energy and feeling surrounding this was, but this is a sexual woman, okay,
Yep.
who is in charge of her own finances and in control of her own life. And I wonder if not only were maybe audiences and producers not ready for it, but maybe just like the way that it was written just wasn't accurate. I don't know.
Bear in mind, this was also before like the first wave.
Hold on,
sorry,
pause,
the second wave.
pause. Sorry. Who is that?
Hi.
Is that producer Daphne on the board? Look at this.
Okay, so this was like pre-second wave feminist movement. So bear in mind, married women could not have their own bank accounts yet. That's where we were at as a society in America.
Yeah.
So I think Jillian is absolutely right that a woman being in control of not only her own sexuality, but also her own finances and not like needing a man in any sense would have been kind of a tough pill to swallow for mainstream audiences.
But it is revealed, and it says here in this synopsis, her past catches up with her. She is married.
Right.
Which is something, too, that was probably shocking. And I don't know if they included it in the 66 production, but they certainly addressed it in the revival play thing that they did.
Yes. That's very interesting. Have you read Breakfast at Tiffany's, Jill?
I've not read the novella, but I've seen the movie, and I read a book about the making of the movie, which is why I knew that Truman Capote didn't like it so much.
I kind of think I might go read it now.
I would love to hear your experience as you read it, and I probably should too if I'm making all of these like guesses, and I'd like to maybe know what I'm talking about.
So, Breakfast at Tiffany's didn't even open. David Merritt couldn't even find it in himself to open it. Other musicals did open, though.
They did.
So, Nelson, what were the Tonys like that year?
The Tonys that year. Well, actually, the following year, in 1967.
Yes.
It was the 21st Annual Tony Awards, and they were on March 26, 1967. They were held
Can we guess who they were hosted by?
Oh, yes, please. Well, I'll tell you the location. So it was at the Schubert Theater. So who do you think it was hosted by?
Angela Lansbury.
No. No, ma'am. No.
67 was hosted by Ethel Merman.
No. Okay, can I give you a hint?
Yes.
Okay, it was a famous Mary.
Mary Martin.
Mary Martin!
Yeah!
I love Mary Martin.
Yay!
Totally.
Okay, so that was one of them, and then there was another one who I don't think you'll ever get.
Okay.
Which is who?
It is Robert Preston.
Oh, yes. I was actually going to guess Robert Preston because he hosted the 18th annual, which we talked about last time.
He's another like recurring host. This is 19 for the 1966 Tony year. What were the big categories? What won?
Okay, I'm gonna make you guys guess again. So,
yes, great.
Best musical and best original score was won by the same musical.
Great.
There was no best book that year because best book didn't start to become a staple in the Tonys until 1971. That's when it started. It was every year from 1971. But before that, it would just come in and out. So there's no best book that year, but the same musical won best musical and best original score. Which one do you think it was?
Not a hot clue. Can you give any hints about the composers or the content of the piece?
Okay. My first hint is... Oh, I hope this doesn't give it away. Okay, it is a Candor and Ebb.
Oh, in
1960s Candor and Ebb.
67? That wasn't Cabaret.
That would be Cabaret, wouldn't it?
It was Cabaret!
Yeah!
Oh, wow. I forget how long ago that really was.
Because that's the OG. That's the OG Cabaret.
It's so interesting where, like, you listen to Breakfast at Tiffany's and it seems like almost kind of quaint, like I was saying, like a kind of a... And we're almost at the end of that era, and Cabaret's breaking new ground at this point, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Oh, yeah, so Cabaret, great, fantastic, easily one of the best musicals. Just full stop.
Oh, by the way, Breakfast at Tiffany's got 0 Tony noms, just so we can get that out of the way.
I don't even think it wouldn't be eligible because it never opened, absolutely. Yeah.
It never stood a chance, but let's be honest, it never stood a chance. Okay, the other musicals for Best Musical were, so Cabaret won.
Yeah.
The other ones were I Do, I Do.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
The Apple Tree.
Yeah. Yes.
And Walking Happy. You know, that big hit.
That big, everyone's favorite walk. Where's the Walking Happy revival we've all been waiting for?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's really cool. Were there any folks that were nominated for performance-related things that we would be excited to celebrate on this podcast?
Did Joel Grey take Best Actor for Cabaret?
No, that was Robert Preston for I Do, I Do.
Really?
Interesting.
He hosted and won.
And took
That's
Best
awkward.
Actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hate to see it.
Well, that's
All
so
right,
fascinating.
Yeah.
So that's Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Wow.
So I was just looking through the original opening night cast, and there was 40 cast members.
One cast member per song.
Oh, that's good. That's actually
They all
really
got
good.
their
Everyone
own
got a
solos.
solo.
Yeah, everyone got a solo.
It's so generous.
It's like musical theater school all over again. Everyone got a solo.
Perfect to do in a musical theater school. Breakfast at Tiffany's. And everyone takes one song.
Oh my god.
Oh
no.
god. Okay. Sorry, that was just the one thing I like.
That's
was
way
looking
too
at
many
that I was
cast
like,
members.
Yeah.
That's this era, though. They would employ like 200 people.
Well, they only had to pay him like $100 a week.
Yeah.
You know.
The union was nothing at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas now, at least people get paid properly, but we're lucky if you can get like 20 people in a cast.
Right.
Oh, you're lucky to even work. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's talk about Hurry Harry.
Hurry, Harry. Hurry hard.
Hurry hard, Harry.
Hurry hard, Harry.
Hurry up, Harry. As one reviewer said, hurry.
I read that one too.
I know.
So shady.
Previews began at the Ritz Theater on October 5th, 1972. It opened on October 12th, 1972. And it closed on October 13th, 1972, after 9 previews and 2 performances.
Wow.
You hate to see it.
You
Ugh.
hate to see it. I'd like to begin by telling a short story that I promised I would tell. Last night, I was playing at a fundraiser. Jill and I both had a fundraiser that we worked on, and we were in the green room, and I was doing my research for this. And dear friend of the podcast, Wes Rambo, looked over my shoulder and said, "Oh, wow, are you guys doing a Monkeys and Playbills on a Dirty Harry musical?"
That's why you said Clint Eastwood.
And that's
At
why
the
I said
beginning.
Clint Eastwood, and
I was
like,
trying to figure out why.
Absolutely we are. We're doing a series of cowboy musicals, starting with Dirty Harry the Musical. And I thought that was a very funny joke, so thank you, Wes Rambo, for making that funny joke.
That is funny. Okay, so, where do we even begin? 1972, what was happening? Bell bottoms? Disco? Like, what's going on?
Like, Vietnam?
Is that Vietnam yet?
That's like right around...
In the pocket, yep.
So like...
Is that Richard Nixon?
Richard Nixon is... This is all right around this time. This is all
Yeah.
setting setting the stage for like a really significant cultural revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And a little old musical called Hurry Harry makes a splash.
It's more of a plop?
Bloop. More of a...
So what is it about? Like, what do you think? Okay, what did you find on the music?
So, I can find virtually nothing about this show. I have no idea what this show sounds like. I can tell you that the poster is a man on a cloud, and also there's a production photo of a woman with an umbrella.
So it rained.
Oh.
We have to assume. And I have a song list. So based on that, I've been able to piece together a pretty clear picture of what it's about, obviously.
I can't wait to hear what you...
Should we dive right in?
I think we
might
should
as
do
well.
this first, and then I will tell you what it's actually about.
Terrific. So Hurry Harry, about a man on a cloud and a woman with an umbrella, starts with an overture, like most things do, and then Harry, our main character Harry, sings a song called I'm Gonna, in which he expresses all the things he's gonna do. I'm gonna fly a kite. I'm gonna hit the winning home run in a baseball game. I'm gonna fly to the clouds.
Oh, sure.
This is Harry's number one goal, is he's going to build a flying machine. He's going to fly to the clouds. So then we get into the meat of the story, and we hear the song When a Man Cries. This isn't sung by Harry. This is sung by our supporting cast, which includes Nick, Mama, Helena, Town Drunk. This is our supporting cast of characters where they sing about how beautiful it is when a man cries, when a man is in touch with his emotions and feels vulnerable enough and safe enough to cry. It's really wonderful, and it ends with all of them crying together. Then we meet Muffy. We meet our woman lead, Muffy, who sings A Trip Through My Mind. Muffy is she's a historian. She's a theologian, and she sings A Trip Through My Mind. She's in her library doing research, and she sings this song about how smart she is, but how much trouble she has interacting with people, and she's backed up by the Dead Sea Scrolls, which she's working on translating. I swear to God, that's what it says here. A Trip Through My Mind, sung by Muffy and the Dead Sea Scrolls.
This has serious Happy as Larry vibes.
Yeah, well, it's very, very, very similar. It's actually
The fates
inspired.
and yeah.
Yeah. We go back and forth for a bit. Harry's in his workshop working on his flying machine. Muffy's in her library working on translating the Dead Sea Scrolls. At one point, we have a song called "Africa Speaks" that we're not gonna touch. We're gonna pretend that doesn't exist for our purposes right now.
Great.
Because we find ourselves to the end of Act 1, somewhere in the past, where Harry has finally finished his flying machine and he takes off into the sky. He flies into the future. And as he's doing that, he sings a song about how he's wanted to do this since childhood, since somewhere in the past when he first had this dream.
Right.
It's beautiful. I cried. I think everyone cried.
Yeah, because when a man cries.
When a man cries, it's beautiful.
That reprise is coming.
It'll go. As we end Act 1, Muffy sees him take off and thinks, who is that?
Oh.
End of Act 1. Refill your drink. We're back. Here the entr'acte. And here we have, at the top of Act 2, the title song, Hurry, Harry. Now, it's sung by Star and the chorus boys, and this is because Harry flies so high, like he runs into a star.
Yep.
He flies into space, for lack of a better term, when he meets stars. And the stars go, Harry, you've got to hurry back to Earth. You can't breathe in space. At this point, Harry he's disrupted the entire ecosystem by flying through the clouds into space. And it causes like rainstorms, torrential downpours all over the world. This is very distressing to Muffy. She's wandering around with her umbrella. She's trying to save all these old documents that are just going to be ruined by the torrential downpour. And she sings a song called Goodbye, where she's saying goodbye to all these things in the past. She's dedicated her whole life to
the documents.
To the documents, and now she's saying goodbye.
The deed to my house. Goodbye.
Oh my god.
My birth certificate. I'm just thinking documents. What documents do you keep outside that would get rained on?
Well, you guys are exactly right. All of those. Muffy had been living in a tent. It's revealed. So absolutely all her life is washed away. Harry lands. He lands back on Earth after his exploration. And he meets with Dr. Krauss. Dr. Krauss is his psychologist, and Harry says, I don't know, I flew all the way to space, this is what I wanted to do in my life, but I don't feel complete. And Dr. Krauss sings a song called You Won't Be Happy. Dr. Krauss explains to him, life isn't about just trying to accomplish these goals you've wanted since you were a kid. You won't be happy if you do that. Life is about finding someone to spend life with. You should probably go try to find someone. This is the 1970s, so that's the plot of a lot of musicals, is finding love, true love. Finally, we're almost at the end. Harry finds his way to church, and Muffy finds her way to church as well. Muffy's trying to find out who she is. She's lost her tent, she's lost her house, she's lost her certificate. She has no idea who she is anymore. They both find their way to church, where Harry and the congregation sing a song called He Is My Bag.
What?
Well, I'm surprised to hear you say what, Nelson, because I believe this is your favorite part of the show. Tell me again what He Is My Bag is about.
He Is My Bag. that song where I am going grocery shopping and he holds my groceries.
Aww, yeah.
Because he
That's exactly
is
that.
her bag.
That's so
Yeah,
nice.
Exactly that. You're absolutely right. And through this song, Harry and Muffy realize, oh, we're both the same kind of weirdos. We're dedicated to our work. Muffy goes, you could be my bag, and you're the person I saw flying through the air. And finally, to end the song, Harry and Muffy sing a reprise of Somewhere in the Past. Sing about leaving their old lives as a weirdo inventor and a weirdo ancient theologian in the past. And they're going to stay together now, which they do in the garden where Muffy had her tent, because the final number is in the garden. So they settle there together.
In the tent.
In the tent, in the garden.
With the documents.
With the documents.
They've somehow come back.
They've come back.
They have dried. The sun came out, they dried.
Wow.
And that's, to the best of my understanding, that's Hurry Harry.
Please tell me that's how it went.
Is that your understanding, Jill?
Okay, so the best part about what you were saying is that it, kind of thematically is not incorrect. In the
I
sense,
need to know what parts of that were correct.
How is that possible?
Okay, so I'm going to read the synopsis, and I want you to
Terrific.
not only think about how it relates to what you just said, but also how it might relate to another show that we're going to talk a little bit about in relation to this one, okay?
Great.
Okay, so keep this in your mind as I read through.
Roger.
This is a synopsis I found from a blog, actually.
Because literally there is so little documentation of this.
Yeah.
There's a song called Hurry Up, Harry that was skewing the Google searches. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So this blog by a person named Samuel L. Leiter. So they wrote that it was, quote, an intimate musical with a fable-like story about one Harrison Fairchild IV, a wealthy young man with an identity problem who roams all over the world in search of happiness. He tries various psychiatric and vocational solutions, which become the show's satirical targets, only to find what he was looking for, guess where? Right in his own backyard.
The
Y'all.
documents.
In the garden.
In the garden.
In a tent in the garden.
So you weren't totally off in terms of like the overarching themes of the play.
That's very generous of you to say, Jill.
Well, I mean, there were moments where you were like, oh, and he just keeps searching for the thing and the thing. Like, you were after it. You were getting it.
Yes, absolutely.
And then he did come home, did he not? In your version.
He did.
So good job.
Absolutely. How do the Dead Sea Scrolls play into this? How does Africa play into this?
Well, it says
How does
it's
I conquer-
fable-like, and he goes on these
Sure.
adventures to try to find who he is.
Seems almost like Dr. Seussian, you know?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, it's fantastical
Yeah.
a little bit. But does it remind you of any other shows, and any other shows that might have been opening, a week after this one?
Where someone's looking for their purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be, in the early 1970s, that would be Pippin.
That's the one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pippin's totally like a fable kind of thing. He tries this, he tries this.
Uh-huh.
I can't find my purpose.
Although it doesn't end quite like that, but
I didn't even, I used Pippin as my reference for the next show we're going to talk about, but it ties in here too.
it really does. So Pippin at its core sounds so much like this show to me. And Pippin previews rather, began for Pippin on October 18th, 1972. So this closed on the 13th. So they were happening virtually at the exact same time. So I wonder if there was a bit of fear from that creative team being like, are we making the right choice doing this play about a lost soul? Like, I wonder if there was any fear from the Pippin folks about that. Probably not, because they were just focused on getting it up, but...
From what I understand about the creation of it, Bob Fosse took it, this silly show that Stephen Schwartz had written, and layered on all this dark stuff and kind of created the leading player. Mm-hmm. And these are the things that make Pippin really interesting.
Totally.
So is it possible that Hurry Harry's maybe even what Pippin would have been without Bob Fosse's involvement?
That's a pretty fair assessment of that, actually.
Right?
Yeah.
Did you happen to read the New York Times review of Hurry Harry?
Ooh, sure
was the New York
did.
Times
What do you
review,
have for
Nelson?
us,
What was it?
Nelson?
So I was surprised of all the things I couldn't find. I was very surprised to read this or to find this. Mm-hmm. And I have to say they were not very kind.
Yes,
Oh,
I agree.
really?
I'm just going to read like a bit of the last paragraph, which goes, It is sad when this kind of thing happens. Sad for the backers, sad for the people who worked on it, sad for the critics forced to pan it. The critic, in such circumstances, is in no particular innocent. Halfway through, he is tempted, in a paranoid fashion, to wonder, what did I ever do to you guys to have to give me such a rotten night?
That's like the meanest one we've
That's
heard, probably.
so funny.
Yeah.
I would encourage everyone to look up this show on IMDb just to get all the credits. I must admit there were a lot of names I didn't recognize. Like, more names that I didn't recognize than ones I did.
Composed by Bill Whedon, who didn't really do much of anything before or after, so we can't even look into that to see what it sounded like or what it might have sounded like. I have no idea what this show sounds like.
Yeah. Although I will say, so Nelson, you said the last show had like 40 people in it. I think this one only had 9. So that's nice.
Playing like 40 characters, though.
I can see that here, yeah.
This story must be so convoluted if people are changing their hats every 20 seconds.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Oh no, you guys. I'm on the IMDb right now, and it's Samuel D. Ratcliffe played the lead part, Harrison Fairchild.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a note that he replaced Bill Hinnant in previews.
Which, okay, so timeline.
Their lead actor who the show's named after, yep.
9 previews, 2 performances. Where in there did they find time to have this person learn it?
Go in as Harry in Hurry Harry.
I can't. That's amazing.
Oh.
That's amazing.
Great. So Hurry Harry lost to the sands of time until now. Nelson, what was doing well? Because I know that Pippin took Best Musical in its year.
Oh, wouldn't you like to know?
Did it not take Best Musical in its year?
No, it was not.
What?
I know.
Everything I know was a lie.
Everything you know is a lie.
I remember that now because when the revival took Best Revival, they were like, finally Pippin gets what it deserves.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue. Yep.
Okay, so this was the 27th annual Tony Awards, and they were held on March 25th, 1973 at the Imperial Theater. The hosts that year were Rex Harrison, Celeste Holm, Sandy Duncan, and Jerry Orbach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was like, spread the love around, all right?
Absolutely.
So what I will say about this is I'm gonna make you guys guess again.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
So I'm gonna say the best musical won all 3 categories: best musical, best book, and best original score.
Ooh.
1972. One composer or 2?
One composer. Composer lyricist.
A composer who before or after was already famous? Like, is this their big show, or did they have other big shows as well?
They had other big shows as well. Most of them came after.
1972, best musical. Most of them came after. Is it a lot of night music?
It is a lot of night music.
There we go, yeah!
It's a little night music, but there's a lot of music
But
in
there's
it.
a lot of music. Like, it was that close to Company. Like, what, 3-4 years from like, what?
Because this is right when Sondheim starts to hit.
Yeah.
I was like, it's either night music or Sweeney, but Sweeney's a bit later.
Sweeney's later, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh.
Amazing.
Really cool. And so what else? So Pippin is nommed, though. Is nominated.
Pippin is nommed, yeah.
Yeah.
So Pippin was nommed. Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, which is a
yes,
review.
yes.
That's nice that they wrote a song about me.
Yeah,
They
the
wrote a
whole
about me.
show.
Yeah. They wrote a whole show.
The one thing I did find really interesting about that is
Yeah.
it was by Mickey Grant, who is like a female composer lyricist. Like, she did all of
In
it.
the 1970s. Good for
Yeah.
her.
Who we're going to talk about in our next show.
We are.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and then the other musical was Sugar,
Right.
which is by Jules Stein and Bob Merrill,
And Bob Merrill, who we just talked about.
who
Yeah.
we just talked about. I know.
Wow, look at all these crossovers.
Is Ben Vereen best actor, though?
He is best actor
Yay,
for Prayer, yeah.
For Pippin.
good.
Yeah.
He won.
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Night Music won for Best Lead Actress.
That makes sense.
It was kind of a tie-up between Pippin and Night Music. They were taking most things.
Yeah.
I
Two
mean,
very different shows as well. That's so interesting.
Incredibly different.
There's no denying as well. Like, Pippin's a nice show, and Stephen Schwartz is a really nice composer. We're going to talk a lot about Stephen Schwartz in a second. But freaking Night Music has Send in the Clowns. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Stephen Sondheim wrote the best song of the last 100 years.
A Weekend in the
that show.
Country.
So that's
I mean,
Oh,
a
I
weekend
love
in
that
the
tune.
country.
da-da-da-da. Oh, it's so good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I guess we should say goodnight to Hurry Harry. Should we get on to the final?
I think so. Y'all, what's the last musical we're talking in this Revive or Die?
Nelson, tell us.
We are talking about the musical Working.
Yes, work.
Because she do work, y'all. She do work.
All right, y'all, let's talk about Workin'.
Working.
get to
Working
work.
9 to 5.
Yes. Could you imagine? Okay. Previews began at the 46th Street Theater. It's probably called something else now.
It is. I think it's the Richard Rogers now.
Ah, yes, that
makes
makes
sense,
sense.
Yeah, it is.
On May 5th, 1978. It opened on May 14th, 1978, and it closed on June 4th, 1978. After 12 previews and 24 performances.
She had more.
I think it's our longest running Revive or Die, if I'm not mistaken.
It seems like it.
Which is wild to think, because that's like 3 weeks.
It's a regional run, y'all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, where do we even begin?
This is Stephen Schwartz's baby, it seems like, right?
Yes.
Like, hands down, it is. His name is, like, plastered all over this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to quickly note, like, the amount of creatives that did work on this show is quite substantial.
Yes, it's unreal.
So, full disclosure, I know what this show is about, or I know the concept of this show, but I think it's gonna work because I know one song from this show, and I know it's a collection of songs by various composers about various blue-collar jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, Pretty much.
And that's all I know. So once we're ready for it, my version of this is going to be speculating about what a few of those songs might be.
Great.
And what a few of those jobs might be.
Yeah, I love that, actually.
Until then, though, what's some of the history on the development of this? Do we have any idea?
Okay, I know that it's based on a book by Studs Terkel.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I know that it was adapted by Stephen Schwartz.
Yep.
Daphne's laughing at the name Studs.
And Terkel. That's not a name. That's a fake thing that you give when someone asks your name.
It's like, oh, yes, I need to order 100 washing machines, please. And then you say your name is Studs Terkel.
But it's like not one that you've come up with in advance. It's one that you're caught by surprise. You
So
didn't
you're
realize
looking
you were
at
going to be
things
asking your
around
name.
the room.
Yeah, you're in like a pet store and you're like, okay, I see some studs in the wall. There's a
Yeah,
turtle over there. I can't say turtle. That's weird.
Terkel.
No, imagine like going into Starbucks and they're like, okay, can I get a name for the cup? It's Studs.
Yeah.
No.
With an S or a Z.
Got a coffee here for Stubbs? Stubbs? They always get it wrong.
Oh, poor Studs.
Poor Studs.
So that's kind of what I know about it. And then, like, in terms of where it came from. But I think Nelson's right. Like, Stephen Schwartz's name is all over this thing in so many different ways that you go, he obviously read this book and thought, oh, well, we got to make it a musical. Like, it just kind of seems like that was the trajectory of this.
And not only that, it kind of seems like, based on the timing at least, this is kind of Stephen Schwartz's blank check project. To throw back to a podcast that I love about movies where directors get a blank check after having an enormous success. So Stephen Schwartz, at this point, has done Godspell and has done Pippin. Mm-hmm. Just so left and right, he's kind of the new hot thing in a few ways.
Yeah.
This is what he uses that cachet to do.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also, I'm wondering, too, like, this is how many years after Pippin? 6? And when was Godspell?
Yeah. Godspell's before, I believe.
Godspell 1971.
Yep, and
Right.
the Godspell movie's 1973. So that's what he's been doing.
Yeah.
He's been between Pippin and, like, getting Godspell, between the off-Broadway production, then the movie off the ground. He's been busy.
And then there was the Toronto production, so you're getting your royalties from that.
Exactly.
And you're licensing these shows out, and so they're getting traction in a way that maybe some other shows weren't.
Especially because this show does not do very well.
I mean, the other thing is because his name is plastered all over this thing, I was like, okay, so it's his baby. But for it to be his baby, but then also have all these other composers and lyricists working on it, also kind of confused me. Because I was like, if this is a musical, but you have so many other voices of other artists being voiced in it.
Yes.
I'm like, what kind of musical are you shaping? Are you actually even shaping a musical? Or is this...
Right.
I read through a bit of the libretto, and I listened to some of the songs, and it just sounds like a review.
Yeah,
Right.
It absolutely does. And I think you're onto something there, Nelson. It's a very bizarre choice for an artist who has made a name for themselves in 2 shows as a composer, and a composer with a pretty distinct, cool voice, to have the follow-up project be, I'm not going to use that voice very much, is really interesting.
Or I'm going to use it in a different way, because Stephen
Exactly.
Schwartz directs this.
Yes.
Yes, he directs it.
We're all, like, making faces. But apparently... Okay, no. We'll talk about that later. But I'm going to just quickly list the folks who contributed to the music, because there's some people in here that we're going to want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Original songs with music by Craig Carnelia, Mickey Grant, Mary Rogers, Stephen Schwartz, James Taylor, and Michelle Broorman. Like...
That's a lot of people. And a lot of people who have done some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where do we start? Craig Carnelia is kind of cool.
Is it, like, too many cooks, though, like Nelson's saying? Like, we're already just like, whoa.
Let me share what I found out about this based on my research. Based on the look of this show, there's a lot of Broadway actors in denim and sneakers.
Ooh, denim and sneakers.
We're working class. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, we go to work every day, earn an honest living.
Yeah.
But very much in that super, like, showy 1970s Broadway kind of way. You know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of thing, it seemed like at least this is the kind of thing that a lot of people make fun of when they make fun of musicals. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, okay.
So that's what the show looked like. And the only song that I know from this show is by Craig Carnelia. It's called The Mason, because I've played it for a bunch of people at cabarets. And it's nice. It's kind of a nice little song.
That's the one song I know from it, because again, musical theater school. So I looked into the books that this is based off of.
Yes.
And one thing I read was the fact that a lot of the, at least the book of this musical and even the text from the music is replicas of these interviews that were done by these people, which is very Chorus Line-esque because Chorus Line was a bunch of interviews.
Bordering on verbatim theater almost, or adapted from some verbatim interviews.
Exactly. And so I think like, oh, if there was so much success found in Chorus Line, why wasn't there a success in this? And I think maybe it was the unification of one topic. I mean, this is about all working class people, but it's working class people at a variety of levels. Like, who do you identify with? And I identified them with this one song, but I had to hear, 20 other songs of not identifying with anyone, Everyone in Chorus Line is fighting for the same thing, which you, as an audience member, get so invested in.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if audience members could invest in all of this.
That's a great point.
That's such a great take. I hadn't even thought of that, but it's gotta be because at this point, Chorus Line is a juggernaut. It holds the longest run title by far. It's kind of goofy when you look back at it now. Shows break the Chorus Line record all the time, but at the time, Chorus Line held this record fast. So there is a bit of it that is like, okay, what is it that makes Chorus Line so successful, and how can we take that? And they took the wrong things.
Yeah.
You can't just interview people and be like, oh, that you're interesting. I'm going to put that on stage.
People like the Chorus Line's about jobs. So we'll do jobs. Yeah.
We'll do this about jobs.
Is it ever about jobs? So let me tell you a few of the jobs that they're about. Nelson, you'll remind me as well if I forget any jobs that it's about, because there's one about a mason that we talked about. If I recall correctly, there's one about a dog catcher.
Oh.
The dog catcher sings about, oh, I love catching dogs because I love dogs. I keep them for myself in my house. I've got a house with 25 dogs.
Oh, it's a spoken word rap.
It's an early rap. Absolutely.
Yeah. Way before its time.
What else? There's a song about a bartender who sings, I love making drinks. Drinks are so great. I love chatting with people and cleaning glasses and sweeping the floor and mopping the floor.
So it's all about how they love their jobs and not at all about anything else?
Those two songs are. But then there's also a song by an executive assistant to a rich person, and the executive assistant is like, I'm not so sure about this. Right. This job is kind of okay, but this person doesn't treat me great. So I'm thinking of looking for a new position, but I'm having trouble getting my resume together.
But
can you recommend someone who does resume services? A dog catching job would be better. Nelson, what? I'm blanking a little bit. Can you remember what other jobs they talk about in working?
Housewife.
They do talk about housewife. Yep.
Newspaper boy.
They talk about the newspaper boy song is great. It's called throw. I throw the newspaper. I throw, and he actually threw newspapers out into the audience. People hated it. They would get hit in the face.
This is pre-Newsies, too.
This is pre-Newsies.
When they opted for just single sheets of paper in Newsies.
This was the reason. They were like, well, remember working. We hit people in the face with newspapers, and they didn't like it.
He actually had a cannon, and he shot the newspapers.
This was a t-shirt cannon. Throw, boom, throw, boom. I throw newspapers.
Because, as we all know, when you buy a ticket in the balcony, you're expecting the same show that those in the orchestra level are getting. So you too deserve a newspaper launched to you.
I think there's a song about a guy who parks cars.
Yeah.
Oh, like a valet.
The valet guy.
Oh, that's a great song. I remember that song now. Vroom, vroom, vroom. A vroom, vroom, vroom. Pass me your keys. A vroom, vroom, vroom.
Oh, my God.
Oh, we're getting wacky. So that's
my understanding of working as a show. Jill, what's working about?
Okay, you're not far off in the sense that you're correct. It's about working class folks, and then they sing songs about their jobs and experiences. So the synopsis that I found on Stage Agent, which means that you can license this, working is about the hopes, dreams, joys, and concerns of the average working American. In the course of one 24-hour workday, the audience meets and hears stories of of various workers, including the school teacher, the parking lot attendant, the waitress, the mill worker, the mason, the trucker, the fireman, and the housewife.
I love a good song cycle. A lot more than I think a lot of people do. Would y'all ever pay to go see a song cycle in a big old Broadway theater?
No. Like, I liked it as an off-Broadway.
Or a nice cabaret setting or something, you know?
Cabaret setting,
Right?
yeah.
I mean, I would go if it was a big name, but then it's a star vehicle for someone, you know?
Right. Which may not actually work for this format.
No.
Yeah, like a big old Songs for a New World where it's like, you've got a couple of stars who are all going to sing like 3 or 4 songs each over the course of the evening.
Yeah.
I feel like this was just kind of destined to not work, dare I say?
I feel the exact same way. Once again, it's like they looked at Chorus Line and took the wrong things, because Chorus Line is song cycle E. It's got some song cycle elements, but it uses such a fantastic framing device and narrative device to tie it all together that it makes it really interesting. And it's also about dancers, so you have an easy way into these enormous dance numbers.
Yes.
I tried to read the libretto of this, and they say that, this is a musical. But the way they tie the songs together is after, like, one song finishes, the person who's going to be doing, like, maybe the next story or the next song will use an element of whoever's the last person who sang in their story. That does not make a unified story. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
No,
Yes.
yeah, it sure doesn't.
Okay, so they tried to make them connect.
Yes.
But you actually can just have people in isolation. Like, they don't have to relate.
Yeah, they can just be people. I would have liked this more if it was just a song cycle. I think I would have.
Sure.
So, this cast. Susan Bigelow, Patti LuPone.
Really? Just coming up. This is just before Evita.
That's it,
This
okay.
is just before she really hits. Yep.
David Patrick Kelly is there. This cast obviously is a collection of really gifted performers.
Absolutely.
Like, clearly there's something else at play that has nothing to do with their handling of the material.
I quickly just want to circle back because
Yes.
I'm just going to circle back here.
Circle back.
I know we talked about the composers already. Or have you even talked? Can we talk about the composers? Is this the thing?
Let's talk a lot more about the
Okay,
composers.
so we have Craig Carnelia, we have Mickey Grant, who, female composer, she's writing full musicals by herself in the 1970s, like power to her. Mary Rogers,
Yep.
who is the daughter of Richard Rogers, or
I think you're right.
who is the mother of Adam Gettle. And then we have Susan Birkenhead, Stephen Schwartz, and then James Taylor. This mosh podge of... Did I use that correctly? This is a mosh podge. Like, this is
Hodgepodge.
hodgepodge.
I believe it's different in the UK. I think you're good. Yeah.
Yes.
This mosh podge. I just don't understand what was going through Stephen Schwartz's head when he was like, yes, I'm going to make a musical about this, and I'm going to use all these people who are great composers, and I'm going to put a through line. That doesn't even work.
Yeah.
The other thing I just remembered through reading about Stephen Schwartz is not only is Pippin and Godspell a thing, this is just at the end of a big, long 4-year run for his show, The Magic Show, which isn't super remembered anymore.
Oh.
But is also like, Stephen Schwartz is on top of the world at this point.
And, like, is doing whatever he wants? Is that what you're getting at?
I think so. Like, it's a power play. It's
Yeah.
And I think a nice one in like let's bring together all these composers, including James Taylor's like the James Taylor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought
It's that
so.
James Taylor.
I thought it was that James Taylor.
Yeah. So.
So, I don't know. I'm like, especially for a guy who has found so much success, or maybe he was just trying something new and he was like, this is the time, I got money, let's try something new. Because if I flop, I'm still going to write Wicked and be very successful. So.
But it's also, this is kind of the end of Stephen Schwartz as a superstar until Wicked in the early 2000s.
Well, that depends how you look at it. But in terms of Broadway, yes, you're right. He's still composing beautiful music.
He is. Absolutely, he is.
For Disney and...
Yeah, he was doing more TV film.
He writes The Baker's Wife, which is a very long, very boring show with a couple of incredible songs.
I agree, yes.
Just before Wicked, does the music for The Prince of Egypt, which is very nice. He takes a turn as one of the lyricist collaborators for Alan Menken, trying to replace Howard Ashman after Howard Ashman passes away. So he does the lyrics for Pocahontas and the lyrics for Hunchback, I believe. And he writes Children of Eden, which is a beautiful fucking
Total
show.
bop.
Yes.
That it was a total bop. But that's just before Wicked as well, because Children of Eden is set to grow to Broadway, and then 9/11 happens and stops it.
Wow.
Like, that's the story of Children of Eden. So it's never really clicked, though. You know what I mean? Both Pocahontas and Hunchback are really not hits at all. They're both do very weird, so he's out of the Disney family. Like, I think Prince of Egypt overperforms and is very nice, but is certainly not an enormous hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such an interesting career that he starts out as, like, hot shit all throughout the 70s. And then really after this, can't quite get a foothold until all of a sudden writes a musical that's the biggest thing he's ever done, like late in his career.
Right.
That is by far the biggest thing he's ever done.
Yeah, wow. It's really fascinating to look at Stephen Schwartz's career in this way, because it's not often that we get to talk about him. We haven't yet, actually.
Either it seems like his shows either don't even make it to Broadway, like Baker's Wife or Children of Eden, or do very well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. But yeah, just so many people involved in this musical. After talking about this show, I think it's the one I'm most intrigued about of all of these three, in the sense that
Absolutely.
I can see it maybe working in some way, with maybe just a new, fresh take on it.
Yeah, that's an excellent call. I can't imagine a song about a housewife written in the 1970s being right down the middle at this point in time, you know what I mean?
Okay, that is fair.
But I'd be interested to look and see and find out.
Do you know the 2017 London revival? You can listen to that recording, and it's nice.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Is it nice?
It's nice.
Okay, I'll have to check
they
it out.
update
Yeah.
the soundscape to like match what is available sounds that we have now.
Yes.
It seems like Stephen Schwartz music lends itself so well to that, because the Godspell revival is so nice, the Pippin revival is so nice. Like it moves into the contemporary sound very easily.
Yeah. That's really cool. That makes it so timeless.
So what was successful this year, Nelson?
Yes, Tony Awards, the 32nd annual Tony Awards on 1978. So, believe it or not, Working got 6 Tony noms.
Wow!
Hey.
6. Unfortunately, work girl.
Did I do it? Yeah.
You were so close.
I was supposed to. My straight ass doing my best sang.
I know. I swear, I'm gonna listen back to this and be like, man, I sound so fucking gay. Be like,
Oh, Nelson, I got news for you, bud.
who's that flaming homosexual who just sounds so flaming? Okay, so back to homosexual Nelson talking about musical year. So,
Yay.
unfortunately, they did not get a nomination for Best Musical, but they did get the 6 for 1 for Best Book, 1 for Best Original Score, and then 2 for Best Performance by Featured Actor, Best Lighting Design, and Best Scenic Design.
Okay.
So
Ooh.
Did it win any?
it won none.
That's not the worst thing in the world. It's too bad that didn't give them a boost.
1978. Was this Sweeney?
Is it? So it's not a Sondheim in Best Musical.
No, it is nicht.
One composer or two.
I actually didn't know who wrote this musical until I looked at it. I was like, I don't know who you are.
But this is good. This is good information as well, because if we all have a very similar level of knowledge and
One composer, but there was multiple lyricists for this show. I'll give you a hint. The book was by Murray Horwitz, who I don't know, but the book was also by Richard Maltby Jr. of the Maltby and Shire.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the late 1970s.
Okay,
Great.
I'll give you another hint.
Great.
It's jazzy. She do swing.
Jazzy, swinging, late 1970s. Jill, do you have any idea?
I'm
1978.
struggling.
One composer, multiple book writers, including frickin' Richard Maltby Jr., like a young Richard Maltby Jr. before Closer Than Ever.
Okay, I'll give you the composer, but I don't think it'll help
please
you,
do.
actually. Fats Waller.
Oh,
Oh, Amy
Okay.
Slavin.
My god, you guys got that so fast. So the other shows that were up for Best Musical were Dancin', which I had not heard of, and it's by various composers and lyricists.
So maybe that took the slot that was for Workin', was Dancin'.
Yeah,
yeah.
Dancin'.
Oh, yeah. It's like, we
They
just can't nominate another one-word musical. Like, we just can't.
Where it's a verb. We can't nominate another verb musical. We
can
can
only
do
have
ain't
one.
misbehaving because that's you're not doing it.
Yeah,
you're not misbehaving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Another one was On the 20th Century
Yes,
by
I'm familiar.
Yeah,
Cy
absolutely.
Coleman and Comden and Green.
Cy Coleman.
Yeah, I
who
like
is
that show.
by far one of my favorite musical theater composers.
Yeah, me as well, I would say.
And then the last musical that was up for Best Musical was a musical called Runaways by Elizabeth Swatows. So Tony Awards, I mean, they didn't win any, sadly.
No.
But they did, at least they got the nom for Best Book, while Stephen Schwartz did. And then all those composers also got, Best Original Score.
Okay.
But I mean, how do you... the other thing that I think about with this show is because there are so many actors that just sing their one solo and that's it. It's how do you pick who did the best job?
Is that the reason that all the noms for actors and actresses were in the supporting category?
I mean, they're all featured. They all had a feature.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But they
exactly,
weren't
yeah.
lead.
That's
So-
right. 'Cause it's featured, not supporting in the Tonys. I would like to go through our 3 musicals and evaluate, all 3 of us, whether we should revive or let these die. So, first of all, Breakfast at Tiffany's. Does this deserve a revive, or is it time to let this die?
Only if it's by a woman named Tiffany at a dive bar.
I'm inclined to agree, Nelson. I can't see a way where this is without an actual total rewrite where this really works.
Yeah. I feel like so much of the show would have to be rewritten in order to make it work for one,
Exactly.
a 21st century audience, and two, for me to even care.
What about you, Jill?
I don't think this should have ever happened, period.
Yeah,
I don't think it should have
absolutely.
even
Yep.
made it this far. Mainly because the movie is its own thing. The movie is very much its own thing, and it's it should not be on stage.
Yep, very fair.
Because the thing you can do really successfully on film is silence. And a thing
Yes.
that works beautifully on stage is silence, but people don't take advantage of it enough. And I am sure they didn't take advantage of it with 40 songs or however many songs there were. So I just don't think we need it. Let it die.
What about Hurry Harry? Do we revive Hurry Harry or do we let it die?
Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah, go first.
Sadly, I think she also needs to die.
Yeah.
She's gotta die. She's gotta go. Get her out of
Harry. Hurry, Harry. And die.
Hurry, Harry, and get out. I think
Yep.
there's better shows that do what that musical was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's not worth the investment of trying to make it work.
I agree completely.
there. And finally, Stephen Schwartz's Working. Revive, let it die.
Okay, so this is where I'm actually most conflicted, because I would like to revive it, but my issue is because it's so built around the text that it's based off of, that how much can you actually change of the original text to try and make it work for a 21st century audience while still being original to that text?
Yeah.
You can make a show sound 21st century. You can do all these things to try and make it, but the text is still from when it was.
Nelson, I agree. I agree completely. I think there's the potential for a strong revival here. I'd want to examine it a lot and really figure out what the take is on it before considering a revival. But of the 3, this is the one where I actually would be interested in considering a revival for sure.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Jill?
Okay, so guess what, folks? There has been a revised libretto on this.
There's a revised libretto.
Oh.
It might be really nice.
We should try to read it because I wonder if maybe some of our feelings about it could go away.
Yeah. I'm certainly putting a lot of judgment on it because of its place in what I know about the 1970s, and I'm making a lot of assumptions, and that might not be fair to Working.
Yeah,
I should
see.
I should take a good hard look at it.
But I'm intrigued by it, and I'm not ready to make my decision yet.
Very good. So we'll update in a future episode whether Jill would like to revive or let dive.
Yeah.
Y'all, I think we did it.
Woohoo!
Pew, pew, pew,
Good
pew, pew,
job.
pew.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nelson Bettencourt is just one of the very, very best. It's wonderful to hang out with you again, dude. Can't wait till the next time you find yourself down here or we find ourselves over there.
I miss you guys.
Miss you a lot,
We
bud.
miss
I miss you folks. I'm trying to use more gender neutral
you.
language.
Excellent
Yes.
choice.
I miss you
Excellent
folks.
choice. Be sure to join us next time when I believe we're going to tackle Wonderland with dear friend of the podcast and very significant person in all of our lives, Ali Fulmick.
Yay!
Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Check out Nelson Bettencourt on social media channels because he's just the best. Send us a comment or an email or something. And until then, stay working.
No.
I don't know.
And don't forget to eat your breakfast at Tiffany's.
And hurry, Harry.
That one just didn't fit.
That
That's okay.
didn't work. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Hi everyone, this is producer Daphne speaking. Thank you all so much for listening to Monkeys and Playbills, the show where we take a look at Broadway musicals that had 100 performances or fewer before closing. To learn more about the show, you can follow us on Instagram at Monkeys and Playbills Pod, on Twitter at Monkey Playbills, or email us at monkeysandplaybillspod@gmail.com. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/monkeysandplaybills. Monkeys and Playbills is proud to be a Village Conservatory for Music Theater podcast. Original music for the show is provided by Paul DeGers, and the show is produced and edited by Daphne Finlayson. Thank you all so much for listening, and join us next week where we take on Wonderland.